We don't think about it these days because we take it for granted. But how and when is email useful? Hi everyone, Jackie Fleischman here, your corporate confidence coach. I work with professionals and entrepreneurs to power up their negotiation skills and help navigate really tough, challenging interpersonal dynamics as they come up in a negotiation, a deal, or in your line of work. I post one video a week where I share my tips, tactics, and strategies. And in this week's video, I share some insights about email etiquette and best practices to avoid some embarrassing and common mishaps that happen to all of us. So we all know email has replaced the phone as a main tool of communication, and it's great. In some ways, it's a time saver, it's a blessing when it comes to sending volumes of documents, and it's a great way to communicate logistics. But there are many instances when a phone conversation or jumping on a Zoom or a Skype call are still best, namely when you're in the middle of a negotiation, because you want to have the benefit of seeing somebody's facial expressions and get cues from their body language. How many times have you sent or forwarded an email that wasn't intended for the recipient or copied the wrong people? Or maybe you received an email that wasn't intended for you. We've all suffered through the embarrassment of sending emails to unintended recipients that includes sensitive information not meant to be shared. The consequences can be costly, both in terms of reputation, a project you're working on, and most importantly, it can really damage a relationship. So first, we're going to look at how to avoid this mishap altogether by following some basic rules. Number one, negotiation and detailed conversations about deal points should not take place over email. A better practice is to discuss in person or over the phone. Both tone and tenor get lost in translation when communicating important issues over email. It's important to gauge responses, reluctance, or eagerness with the help of verbal cues. It's also a stronger way to build rapport, even if it's over the phone or even through a Skype or Zoom call if you can't meet in person. Number two, summarize and document this phone or in-person meeting, and if appropriate, send that through email. This communicates your understanding of the issues discussed, and it affords the other person the opportunity to clarify or add information that maybe you didn't take into account or that maybe you missed in your summary. Number three, we're going to talk about emoticons. I am a big believer in staying away from using emoticons in a professional negotiation and frankly in your overall professional business relationships and dynamics. Communication and correspondence when it comes to your work life should be relevant, topical, polite, and professional. And of course, as you develop a larger or stronger rapport with someone, it should always be cordial and friendly, but it does not mean that we have to emoticon all of our communications like we do with a loved one or family member. It's not the time or place to make use of cute smiley faces. Do not use email to vent your anger. Number four, email isn't the right medium to express your anger, and it may only serve to exacerbate the problem. Instead, take a moment to regroup. It could be 24 hours, 48 hours, it could even be a week or a month. But once you've regrouped, send a request to meet the person to whom you were going to address the email to, and request to meet in person to discuss the issue in a constructive way. 5. Important asks like a request to increase your salary or to terminate a contract or maybe change departments. This should not be sent over email. Instead, send an email requesting a meeting to discuss your ask in person. This way, you are encouraging a positive discussion and response where you can put your persuasion tactics to good use instead of providing the person with an opportunity to say no immediately in an email response. And finally, what do you do when an email ends up in someone's inbox that it wasn't intended for? If this happens, you have to take it in stride and remind yourself we all make mistakes and we've all lived through this. Depending on the relationship you have with the person, you may want to acknowledge your error and send apologies with a request to disregard or a sincere ask to move past it. I would likely send an email request, or I would likely send an email and a follow-up with a phone call to move past the embarrassing issue. If you are the recipient of an email that wasn't intended for you, the best thing to do is delete it and move on. Recognize that we have all been there and we all make mistakes. And before sending an email, it's a great practice to check all recipients and content at least once or twice to avoid these unbearably uncomfortable situations. I'm Jackie Fleischman. Thank you for joining me today. If you like these videos, please subscribe. And there's always more information for you to check out on the website at www.jackiefcoaching.com. See you soon.